The exciting environmentalist George Monbiot offered his take on the Queen's Jubilee today. He told his 500,000 Twitter followers, "I have nothing against the Queen. I think she's quite impressive, keeping her cool amid so many maelstroms, but I despair of the fuss we make of her. Pomp and pageantry are the enemies of reason. They impede progress towards a fairer society." Do you despair of the fuss we make about our Queen? Despair is quite a strong word, isn't it? The dictionary defines it as the complete loss of hope. A Ukrainian, the Donbass, for instance, might feel despair right now, but not a man whose life can be hardly described as a struggle. I'm afraid George Monbiot is sounding like another one of those posh boys who can't understand why the plebs hang on to outdated ideas like patriotism. He talks about a fairer society. Always easier for folk like George, who went to one of the best boarding schools in the land, followed by a degree at Brasenose College, Oxford, where else, and a job at the BBC, to talk of a fairer society. I think what they really mean by a fairer society is one where people like them get to decide what should and shouldn't be venerated. So George says he hates pomp and pageantry because they're the enemies of reason. Might it be that what he's really saying, but he's too well brought up to admit, is that he finds it all a bit embarrassing? Might it be that pomp and pageantry, far from being the enemies of reason and a fairer society, are part of the glue which holds that society together? Those people George Monbiot inadvertently mocks for making a fuss, think about who they are, just for a second. Who are the people, when push comes to shove, we entrust to keep our families safe? Soldiers and police officers don't take a sacred oath to protect George Monbiot's abstract vision of a fairer society. They swear to serve the Queen. And this is the bit that folk like George Monbiot, in their gilded worlds, seemingly misunderstand. Generally speaking, people aren't prepared to lay down their lives for an idea. Yes, freedom or democracy or a fairer society are worth struggling for, but most of us, particularly those willing to fight and die on your behalf, George, need an idea to take physical form, which is why people like him seem to be baffled, genuinely baffled, by what they see as an irrational attachment to meaningless symbols, an anthem, a flag, a crown, a queen. But George Monbiot appears to miss something else. That pomp and pageantry he holds in scant regard. They help explain our long history. Think of the biggest act of British pageantry of all. Think of that picture of the most recent coronation with the Queen wearing wearing a crown and holding a golden sceptre and orb. For people who want to abolish the monarchy, they're just pointless trinkets, so much superstitious mumbo-jumbo to keep the proletarians in awe. But for people who value and treasure their island story, there's more to it. For instance, the golden orb the Queen holds in that picture of the coronation, the famous one, symbolises the whole world. It has a cross on top of it, reminding us that Britain has been a Christian country for 1,500 years. It's worth remembering, as ceremonial objects are meant to, that the orb tells another story too. It was created on the orders of Charles II. He was the monarch restored to the throne after our bloody flirtation with republicanism in the mid-1600s. Oliver Cromwell's Commonwealth, like George Monbiot's fairer society, was meant to create a Britain with more reason and less fuss. In reality, the society we got was utopian, unworkable, and joyless. Christmas, for instance, was banned. Eventually, people rose up and said they wanted their royals back. It's a lesson intellectuals would do well to heed. They won't, of course. This weekend, they'll mock the bunting and the flags and the singing, even as they take for granted the stability which patriotism makes possible.